All right, good morning. So we're going to carry on going through Siman Kuf Ayin, talking about Dvarim HaNoagim B'Suda, all the halachas that apply during a meal. We're up to Sif Tes. Says the Mechab in Sif Tes, Lo yochal shum oy botzel, you shouldn't eat a garlic or an onion, mireishay, from the top, ele me'olov, but from me'olov, I think, from the inside, I'm not exactly sure, from on top. It's hard to know exactly what this means. Vim ochal harizeh ra'afson. And again, we're not worried about this. Is not to do with b'dikas teloim or anything like that. I guess you've checked it already, and it seems to be clear. But the problem is, it's just not a pleasant way of eating. It's the derech ra'afson. It's a greedy way of eating. Says the Ramah, lo yechel derech ra'afsonusa, and a person shouldn't eat stam in a greedy manner. V'lo yechoiz hamachel biyodoi achas. You shouldn't hold the food in one hand, for yitleish, and then just pull away mimenu biyodei hashniya, to sort of to eat. Again, it's considered a greedy way of eating. Says the Mishnah Berurah Sif Katan Chaf Gimel, Meirosh Pirish. What's pshat? Ki hashum, the garlic, the clove of garlic, halovon sheboi mibifnim, hu hamashubach sheboi. The best part of the garlic is the inside, the white inside. V'ha'olin, and the leaves, hayurukin, the green leaves, shemilmalo, gruin mehem, they're not considered so good. Umechzi karavson kashiyas chalechel meirosh. And therefore, if you're eating the leaves as well, that's considered a sort of a ravenous, greedy way of eating. Or b'Shabbos mutar mishum chibuv sudas Shabbos. On Shabbos, because it's interpreted to be a chibub, a sort of an appreciation of sudas Shabbos rather than a greedy way of eating. Me'olov mitzat he'olin. I see. It doesn't mean from. It means from the leaves which are on top. So rather, you shouldn't eat eat the leaves as well, but rather you should peel it open and then eat the inside. That's the polite way of eating. Okay, and then the Ramah says that you shouldn't hold on to a food in one hand and be toilish and to eat in the other hand. Rotzaloma says the Mishnah Berurah Chafei. If you want to forcibly break apart food, you're holding in two hands to tear it. That a foolish person, what it means is he's holding the stalk or the item in one hand, and he's biting it. In other words, the way this halacha is interpreted in Maseches Derech Eretz, which is actually the source of all this, is that he's actually holding the food and biting from it. So he's not using a knife and fork or pulling away something, but rather he's just holding onto the stalk and just biting from it. That's not considered a sort of a delicate sanua way to eat. Okay, next halacha, Yud. Lo yishech prusa v'yanechena al gabi hashulchan. The person shouldn't take a bite from something and then leave it on the table. So even though you're not giving it to somebody else, no one else is eating from it, but you eating it from your mouth and you've sort of left saliva around the edge of whatever you're eating and leaving it on the table is considered a bit off-putting for other people. Says Rashi, says Mishnah Berurah, because it's considered moas, it's disgusting for other people that the bit that you've eaten from is still sitting on the table next to them. Yud Aleph, next case, says the Mechaber, lo yishte odom shnei kaises bebas achas b'toich sudasai. A person shouldn't drink from two cases, from two glasses in the Suda. It looks like, again, a greedy way of doing, a ravenous way of eating. So take a look at the Mishnah Berurah to explain what this means. Sif Katan Chav Zayin. It looks like you're eating, so you're drinking two cases in one go. That you're doing it in a way that you're sort of helping the food digest. That this is just to sort of let the food settle, that after Birchas Hamazon you're going to continue eating, and therefore that's considered a greedy thing to do. You shouldn't bring two cups. That you want to drink one glass now, and the second case you're going to use for Birchas Hamazon. To bring a person two glasses is considered wrong. The guy is just greedy. He's having two cups of wine, it's two glasses of wine. You bring him one at a time, that's okay. But to bring him two cases, even though one is for drinking and one is for Birchas Hamazon, for the onlookers, it looks a little bit like this guy is a bit of a glutton. Okay, Sif Yud Beis. Shnaim sheyeshvin ala shulchan. If two people are eating at a table together, hagadol poishit yodei techila. The person who is a gadol, the greater person, he gets to eat first. He gets to serve himself first from the serving platter. But if somebody who is junior to the more senior person there gets in there first, that's impolite. That's a gargaron. It's considered a ravenous way of eating. You couldn't wait. The derech eretz is to let the older person take first. Says the Mishnah Berurah Kofches, Hagadol Peshet. Afilu b'dikakaris tuva. So imagine you're at a Shabbos table, and there are lots of dishes on the table. There's kigel, and there's chicken, and there's vegetables, whatever, going round. The derech eretz is you let the gadol go first, even though there are lots of things, you offer him first. Lo yivshet yodel lekar shelafonov. You shouldn't take. Ad shegadol yivshet techila lekar shelafonov. Until the gadol takes first. V'hu adin b'manichin peres lifnei kol echad ve'echad sheyivshet hagadol yodel techila. That there's a fruit platter or something. Again, the gadol goes first. Now the question is, how do you define gadol? Is it greater in Torah? Is it greater in years? What is it? So if you look at note 26, the second paragraph, for gadol inyan zeh das hagon Chaim Pinchas Scheinberg shehu bein gadol b'chachma bein gadol b'shalom. It's both. So whether a person is a bigger Talmid Chacham or whether he is greater in years, is an older person, so either way he goes first. That is general table manners. Okay. Yud Gimel. Hanichnes lebayis. Someone walks into a house. Lo yom tnuli lechol. Give me to eat. Ad sheyom ruhem, until he's offered food. Don't demand food. Let's just do the Mishnah Berurah on that. Lebayis, that means the balabayis. He shouldn't go up to the balabayis and say, I want to demand food. Or poshut, demayri kisheinu misarech sham bischar. He's not paying like a guest house or something like that, where that was the arrangements. You're paying for this, and therefore you're saying, okay, can I have supper, please? That's okay because you're paying for that. But we're talking stam. You're staying in someone's house. Don't demand food. Tnuli lechol ve'im nosn lefonov. If they give him, ein tzarich lahamdin su ad sheyem lo sheyechol. If they give him, he doesn't have to wait for them to say, go on, eat. He doesn't have to wait for that. Once they give him food, he can proceed and eat straight away. If you look at 27, interesting, he says, v'dafka legabe achila. This is dafka referring to eating, to food. Aval legabe shtia, but when it comes to drinking, kosva ben ishchai, shemuta lo'irech levakesh shtia lifnei she'atzir le'balabayis. You walk into a home and say, is it possible to have a drink? Can I please have a drink? That would be okay. But to demand food or to ask for food, it will wait for them to offer. I suppose the svar is because with food it could be they haven't got or something like that. But drink, I guess, is more readily available, perhaps. Okay, let's go back to the Ramah now. The Ramah in Yud Gimel says the Ramah lo yoyma adam lechaveiroi boi ve'echol imi ma shehechaltani. So imagine, a person Reuven ate with Shimon, and now he wants to sort of pay him back. Come and eat with me that which I ate in your house. In other words, you ate with me yesterday, and now it's payback time, and you'll come and eat with me, and you'll eat what I ate from you yesterday. Now that's a problem. Why? Because it's a problem of ribbis. Says the Ramah, because it's like you're repaying your debt. It's as if he lent, and you're repaying it. And what's the concern? You might give him more, and therefore you're paying back more than you had yesterday, and therefore it's a shayla of ribbis. Eat with me today, and I'll eat with you tomorrow. That's okay. But to say to him, I'm paying you back for what I ate yesterday, that looks a bit more like ribbis. But if you just say, look, have lunch with me today, and I'll have lunch with you tomorrow, and he happens to eat more tomorrow, then we're not worried about that. Says Mishnah Berurah Lamed Aleph, Mishum Ribbis, Kolema de Mechzik Ribbis. It's not proper ribbis, but it looks like ribbis. Avol Medina lav ribbis, it's not proper ribbis, interest. But that was never the intention of a proper loan. Avol Mutaloma, but you can say, just have lunch with me today and I'll have lunch with you tomorrow. Because no one's talking about debts and loans. That's a nice way of speaking. He might feel uncomfortable to eat with him, so therefore he say, "Look, yeah, come eat with me, and I'll eat with you tomorrow." That's just a way of speaking. The Taz actually is concerned about this as well. Ayin Sham, and he is actually machmer in both cases. Lamed Gimel, afilu b'su'uda, because this is not really a havor, this is like a gift, and therefore eat with me today, and tomorrow I'll eat with you, and in the second day there is eating more. we're not worried about that. That's considered a matana anyway, and it's not a halva, so we're not worried about that. Okay, Yudalet. Lo yifres adam perusa al gabi haka'ara. A person shouldn't break the bread. He shouldn't sort of tear open bread and put it on the serving dishes. But he can wipe the serving dish. You imagine you've got a plate with some hummus or something like that, to take the bread and to wipe it, or whatever it is, some meat or something, that would be okay. But to break the bread over the serving trays, one shouldn't do. Why not? So let's see the Mishnah Berurah. Hainu prusas pas. That means breaking bread. The concern is that the loaf may fall into the dish, and therefore it will make the eichel unpleasant. Issa b'gemara, when you cut meat, you cut it on the table or on a plate. Don't cut it on the back of your hand, because you might cut your hand. And in addition to the danger of a person cutting his hand, and moreover, there's a second concern, because if a bit of blood comes out and it goes on the food, then it will all become disgusting. But prusa, but you can be mekaneach the dish with the bread, so long as we're eating the bread. But stam, just to dirty the food, that's a bizoin for the ochlim. But if you're doing it in order to eat it, that would be okay. Tesvov. Lo yelaket pirurin v'yaniach hagabe hashulchan. You shouldn't gather together the pieces of bread and leave them on the table. Mipnei shehu memacher, says Rashi, says the explanation, pirush matrid, it will disturb people. Daita shechaveiroi. V'lo yishech prusa, you shouldn't take a bite of a piece of bread or whatever. V'yidnele lepnei chaveiroi aletecha ka'ara. And then put it back into the dish, right? If you imagine you've got your own fork or your own spoon and you're eating from that, and then you take that spoon and to use in the serving dish, that's disgusting. You shouldn't do that, because you've got your germs and your saliva is going into the serving dish. It's the same sort of thing that's going on over here. So lo yishech prusa, don't take a bite and then put it in front of your friend, or give it to your friend, or put it into the ka'ar. People are sensitive to this. Says the Mishnah Berurah Tes Lamed Vav, V'lo yishech prusa lechaira. Now he's got a kasha. Lechaira ha nilmud mizeh mikol shekein t'sif yud. In Sif Yud, what do we say over there above? We did it this morning. Ta'afilu agabi hashulchan osa. You can't even take a bite and leave it on the table. So for sure you can't give it to the next guy, yeah, or put it in front of him. Kol shekein litin lefnei chavera bakar, or put it in the serving dish. If you can't just eat it and just leave it there, then for sure you can't do that. Ela be'emes garsin hacham miprusa, from the loaf. That means not the bit that you actually ate from to then give it to your friend or something like that. Because you can't even leave that on the table, like we said above. That's off-putting for the guy next to you. In other words, imagine you've got a challah roll. So you take a bite out of that challah roll. So that you can't put down next to you, and because it's considered disgusting, to break it off and eat it like that. But to take a bite and then to leave it in front of the guy next to you, it's off-putting for him, because your saliva is sitting there on the edge of the loaf in front of him. But what you can do is if you've taken what it's talking about over here, is if you take a bite and then you break off a bit from the other side of it, and you wipe the hummus dish or something like that. Even that is off-putting for some people, even though it's not touching the saliva, but since it's connected to it, that's considered a bit off-putting, it seems. I think that's pshat. Okay, Tez Zayin. Lo yishte, we'll just do two more quickly. Lo yishte me'akais v'yiten lachaveiroi. It's very interesting halacha. Mipnei sakonis nefashos. Amazing. That means you're drinking, and then you want someone to share your glass. In COVID, everyone became very concerned about this, right? But it says lo yishte mikais v'yitin lachaver mipnei sakonas nefashos. Germs are dangerous. Interesting. V'yitin lachaver, says the Mishnah Berurah, shema machmas habushi yekab chaver mena v'yishte bal korche, because maybe he'll feel pressure to drink it, and bal korche he'll drink it. V'ulei chaver mois lo lishtos mimashashiyazeh. It's mois for that person to drink the leftovers of another guy. Because maybe his spit, his saliva will be in the actual case. And he might get sick from it. Amazing. Which is dafka if you give it to him. If you put it down, and he takes it, then then less lombard, there's no concern. V'taz kosov ani roisi b'tzavos Rabbi Eliezer HaGadol shemansir ma'od shelishis mimashi yeshar chavero. He was very careful not to eat that from that which is left over from his friend. Kishema yesh lechayli b'toich kufa. Maybe the other guy is sick, he's not well. V'yotz ruach mepiv lo isashir. V'ayin sham, germs will spread. Ayin lekam b'sif chafeis t'mahani kinuach mokum l'shikas hapeh. B'mayim sheshoifich mehem ma'ad derech oisa mokum sheshoso mepiv. V'lecheres soisa l'div Rabbi Eliezer HaGadol. V'ulai Rabbi Eliezer HaGadol mayri d'orishin sheshosa haya adam she'enon ha'makirin osei imu bari d'ozi yesh lochash yosef I'm a prima godim. I'll tell you something interesting. With Kiddush, Balabais, you've got to be careful. When you make Kiddush, and I'm very careful with this, when I make Kiddush, before I drink from the kais, I pour into another kais, and from that other kais, I then distribute to give people, right? For me to drink, and then to give it, which is here, which is... 28. Right, yeah, that's why I footnoted it. Okay, I'll come to that in a second. Just by the way, there's a in Amsterdam, if I'm not mistaken, it was Amsterdam, there's a museum there, a Jewish museum. I think it was Amsterdam, and there it's got different types of bechers. I think I saw it was Amsterdam. Anyway, there was different types of bechers, but it had bechers with like 8 sides to it, an octagonal becher. Why? Because this mishpacha had 6 kids, so each one is going to drink from their little bit. That was the rationale given to it. Okay, I don't know, but look at 28. Omnom. Now the Maisa. The Maisa people do it, right? So you make Kiddush and then you give the Kiddush cup around. Yeah, Mikoshel Sheva Brachos, for example. Yeah, that's quite common. Okay. He was surprised by this practice. You shouldn't drink from a kais and give it to somebody else. Yashiv Minhag Olam, he says, okay, maybe the yishuv, the justification of the Minhag Olam is shelitzorich mitzvah shani. Yeah, this is a mitzvah, and therefore, etc. is different. But ben ishchai kosav hatam haminhag shebnei abayis tamim kosav shebal abayis shekim sheyodim she'en abal abayis chayli sheyazik lahem ein issa bedava. Right, we're all family, and therefore it's okay. Right, that's one just explanation. Let's just quickly do your zayin. V'lo yesh tekos v'anechel al hashulchan. Interesting halacha. Don't drink from a kais and leave it on the table. Hold it in your hand until the shamas comes. So we don't do this. We drink from a kais and we leave it on the table. Yeah, what is going on? Says the Lamed Ches, she'ein ze derech kovod lahaniach al hashulchan kais reikam. To leave an empty kais on the table is not beseda. If you look at 30, he says, was manenu kosav ben ishchai. The minhag nowadays is not to worry about it. Ein tzorich lahakbid b'zeh. V'ktois hashulchan writes shedin zeh lo nema ele bezmanom. In those days, shaya shamash mevi lekol echod kaishash im shtia. The shamas would come round, will give you a kais. So don't leave an empty kais on the table. Avol bizmanenu shenifnei kol echod menachas kais reika. Nowadays, everyone has their own glass. And he fills it with the drinks, whatever he drinks. That's our minhag. We have a close glass on the table. We drink, we pour, we use it. So therefore, this particular halacha we don't seem to be concerned about nowadays. Okay.